Welcome to the GV Christian School Podcast. GVCS is a ministry of GV Christian Center in Henderson, Nevada, and is dedicated to the pursuit of God, knowledge, compassion, and leadership. I'm your host, Sean Scotty, and I can tell you that the greatest part of our school is the people. It's the community of families, faculty, and staff that all come together to pour into the next generation. Each week, we'll be introducing you to some of the amazing people that are part of GVCS, and we hope that this adds value to your life and gives you a better understanding of why so many families have chosen us to be a critical part of their children's foundation in life. This time around, we'll be listening to a small portion of the high school graduation for the class of 2020. The GV Christian Center Next Gen pastor and school chaplain, Steve Withey, shared this commencement speech to our graduates and their families. And although, yes, it is inspiring and encouraging, it also shows how invested we become in the success of each of our students' futures and how we're preparing them not just for college, but for life.
Good evening, everyone. GV Christian graduating class of 2020, and God bless you. The theme of our graduation is past, present, and future. And I believe that yours is a class like no other, prepared in the past to face the present and press on towards the future. When you were coming into this world, a trilogy of movies was released that began with these words: "The world is changed. I feel it in the water. I feel it in the earth. I smell it in the air. Much that once was is lost." Yes, that was Lord of the Rings, and yes, I am that much of a big nerd, so I'm on the microphone, not you. But for you, class of 2020, this could almost be your rallying cry. The world is changed. I feel it in the water. I feel it in the earth. I smell it in the air. Much that once was is lost. So much has been lost for you. Between cancellations of athletics, fine arts, extracurricular activities, practices, rehearsals, tournaments, prom, and so much more, with nothing you could do and no way to stop it, your senior year was cut short and you lost so much. One senior girl was reported as having said this: "It feels so unfair that this is happening to us, but it would be unfair to happen to any senior class." Of course, being healthy and looking out for others is our top priority, but it feels like the class of 2020 is going to miss out on so many really special memories. You've been cut off, quarantined, isolated, and as much as I'm sure you love your family, I'll bet being stuck at home with them, playing board games and watching Tiger King is not exactly how you envisioned spending the last few months of your senior year. Yours is a class like no other. You were born in the shadow of 9/11. You grew up with the growing threat of mass shootings in the Great Recession. And now in your graduation year, what should have been the year of greatest celebration of your life so far, you've already had to face wildfires and floods, the threat of World War III, a global pandemic, isolation and quarantine, murder hornets, the collapse of the economy, and in the last 2 weeks alone, an earthquake, a narrow miss by a meteor the size of the Empire State Building, and protests, riots, and civil unrest stemming from centuries of racial inequality. Listen, all I can say is, whichever one of y'all is playing Jumanji, take your next turn and get the game over with. Okay? Your childhood was bookended by tragedy and filled with unease. You came into the world in a tumultuous time, and now you're stepping into adulthood in another. Yet through it all, you have not complained. You have not made excuses. You have not wallowed in self-pity and tried to blame others for anything. You have stepped up, stood strong, and pressed on. And because of your perseverance, the only thing I can say to you in the wake of so much chaos and uncertainty is this: you are destined for greatness, and we expect nothing less. You have been forged in the fire. And what you have seen and experienced in your life will give you the resolve to fight, to push, and to continue on and through until the end, no matter the circumstance, because you know that life will continue on and will continue to be unpredictable beyond 2020. This class has been groomed for greatness. You are strong and resilient, and we are so proud of you. It is my honor to join you as you celebrate your commencement today, and I feel so privileged and overjoyed that I get to be the blessing to get to address you as the men and women you are embarking on this next step in your great journey called life. Yours is the largest graduating class of GV Christian to date. Some of you I know better than others. Others, I wish I knew better, but I look around and I see the familiarity in so many of your faces. Curtis, you were my son's Bible buddy in your 5th grade year. Abby, I was in the hospital the day you were born. Man, I was like 5 years old when you were born. I've worked side by side with many of you on mission trips. I've cheered for you in the bleachers at your sporting events. I've worshiped beside you countless times in chapels and joyfully watched you serve and learn and grow in your pursuit of God, knowledge, compassion, and leadership. I believe, I know that you will impact the world like no generation before you. As you take all you have learned from the past, all you have experienced in the present, and all that has made you, you, and use it to make a better future for all who will come after you. I want to leave you with a challenge. I leave you with one simple Bible verse. In the New Testament, there was a young man who was facing a tremendous time of trials, turmoil, and persecution as he was stepping into his first adult role in leadership in a very difficult place and a very difficult time. He was isolated, alone, discouraged, deflated, and demoralized. His name was Timothy. And his mentor and friend Paul sent him a letter to encourage him in the midst of the difficult time he was facing. And the letter to Timothy, chapter 4, verse 12, it says this: "Don't let anyone think less of you because you are young, but be an example to all believers in what you say, the way you live, your love, your faith, and your purity." Class of 2020, I encourage you with the same charge Paul gave to Timothy. Take all you have learned in the past, all you've experienced in the present, and use it all to make a better future. Start by showing the way in your speech, in your action, then in your love, your faith, and your purity. Those 3 words, love, faith, and purity, if we work backwards through them, purity can be envisioned this way. It is an inward look. It is looking at myself and realizing what needs to change in me. It starts in you. Going back to another old movie that I love from around the time you were born, The Matrix, Neo was going to visit this lady called the Oracle to find out what he was supposed to do. And he sees this little kid flipping spoons around with his mind, right? And he's twisting the spoons all up. And the little boy looks at him and he says, "Don't try to bend the spoon. It's impossible. Instead, realize the truth. There is no spoon. Then you will see it's not the spoon that bends, but only yourself. Change the world by starting in you and see what happens." Next, faith. Faith is upward. So purity is inward. Faith is upward. It is an extension towards God. When Jesus was asked the question, "What is the greatest commandment?" he replied, "The most important is this: you must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, and all your strength." If everything you do is reflected in him, everything you do is an act of worship and an act of love towards him, if you are looking inward and reaching upward, then everything will begin to be affected around you. And that leaves us with the last piece of this puzzle, love. He says, love, faith, and purity. Purity is inward, faith is upward, and love is outward. To everyone you meet, everywhere you go. Again, when Jesus was asked that question, what's the greatest commandment? He said, love the Lord your God. And then he said, and love your neighbor as yourself. Love people. There's no command greater than this, he says. And love is a very difficult thing to understand. We think about love the way Hollywood romanticizes it. We look at it as butterflies and puppy dogs and a text message that comes in and you're like, oh, it's that one that I love. But love is a reflection of how you react and change the world around you. And it's best defined in another verse in the Bible in 1 Corinthians 13. If you let these words guide you and drive you, you will change the world. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love does not envy. Love does not boast. Love is not proud. Love does not dishonor any others. Love is not self-seeking. Love is not easily angered. Love keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. Love always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. Class of 2020, you cannot fail because love is on your side. And so as I conclude my few moments up here, I want to say a blessing over you. From these very words of Paul, will you just do me a favor and lift your hands skyward in a position of receiving, because you want to receive this from God. And I commend you with this charge. Do not let anyone think less of you because you are young, but be an example to all others in what you say, the way you live, your love, your faith, your purity. Change the world by looking in, looking up, and looking out. Thank you.
That's it for this episode. If you'd like to learn more about GVCS, you can visit gvchristianschool.com. Call us at 702-454-4056 or search for us on Facebook at GV Christian School, Preschool, Elementary, or Junior and Senior High.